This is Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing. You're watching Sporting Icons. You don't need to be anywhere else.
Now, article in the description box. As always, make sure that you subscribe to the channel before you go give it a read. So, Eddie Hearn has said that Luis Ortiz, King Kong Ortiz, is still available to fight Anthony Joshua on June the 1st, but he's going to have to get on his bike and hurry up, okay? Because as far as I heard, this is me, this is not Eddie Hearn, but as far as what I've heard, they're supposed to be announcing Joshua's opponent today. But who knows, who knows. Anyway, so I'm going to get into the statement from Eddie Hearn, and this is what he had to say while he's over there in America promoting the Rung Versailles and Estrada fight, which is a great fight, by the way. So, Eddie Hearn's statement. We represent Michael Hunter, so that fight is a lot easier to do. Al Heyman represents Andy Ruiz. If he wants to give him the opportunity, that's there as well. Star-wise, the Ruiz fight is more interesting, in my opinion, than the Hunter one. And Hunter is more of a tricky fighter. He's a very clever fighter. He's got one defeat on his record against Alexander Usyk. So you can compare Joshua to Usyk. Andy Ruiz has a decent Mexican following. It would have a good Hispanic interest. He could be the first Mexican heavyweight world champion if he beats Joshua. There's a couple of other guys in the mix. We've mentioned them in the past. Even Luis Ortiz could come and say, let's go. And you know what? We'd do that. The difference is Luis Ortiz is a different draw than Andy Ruiz. Ruiz has a different value, so the pay-per-view numbers would be less for Andy Ruiz than they would be for Luis Ortiz in the UK. The gate will probably be less for Andy Ruiz than it would be for Luis Ortiz. Obviously, he doesn't have the same value. But he won't take a chance like that unless Ruiz is going to get a big payday, and he'll get one. Now, they know that Ortiz, he can win, but Ortiz's preparation hasn't been great. The difference between Hunter and Ruiz is that Hunter is in camp. Hunter is fighting on May the 25th on the Usyk card. Ruiz has just finished the fight. Both guys are ready to go. Ortiz hasn't really been training. I do believe Hunter and Ruiz believe they can beat Joshua. I know Ruiz and Hunter will give everything. Andy Ruiz doesn't look the best, but he's fast and he can fight and he'll be there to win. He's going to have a big Mexican support. He's one of 4 guys right now that are in the mix. One of those guys can phone up and accept the deal and we'll get it done tonight, but it will be in the next 48 hours. So Eddie Hearn's statement. So this was something that he said last night in UK time, but during the daytime for there in America. So it could be today, could be tomorrow by looks of it. But originally a few days ago, Anthony Joshua said that he fully expects an announcement in the next 48 to 72 hours. So that will be today for 72 hours. But hey, listen, sometimes things take a bit longer than usual, but it is what it is. Now, I can see what it is that Eddie Hearn is saying when he's talking about marketability and the different kind of fights that are potentially on offer. Luis Ortiz, Andy Ruiz and Michael Hunter. All 3 of them are very capable of putting on a good show against Anthony Joshua, but Joshua's going to be the favourite no matter how you look at it. But one thing that I will disagree with Eddie is the fact that he's saying that Michael Hunter is in camp. That bit's true. Andy Ruiz has just finished a fight. Again, that is true. But Ruiz is back in training. We seen him yesterday. And he said that Luis Ortiz has not been training. Well, he has been training because Deontay Wilder said right after Miller failed a PED test, was it over a week ago now, that he knows Luis Ortiz is ready to fight. He's always willing to fight. He's always ready for that phone call. And he will be in training right now. So there's no excuse for Luis Ortiz. Eddie Hearn saying that Luis Ortiz is not in training. This is probably what Jay Jimenez, Luis Ortiz's manager, has probably told him, to try and up the value a little bit more. But what we do know is that Luis Ortiz has apparently been asking for $3 million more than what Big Baby Jarrell Miller was getting. However much that was, some say 6.5, some say 8, depends on where it is that you look. But either way, Luis Ortiz wants $3 million more. Bearing in mind that Luis Ortiz's highest payday was 500 grand against Deontay Wilder for 1 belt, and now he wants umpteen millions to take on Anthony Joshua, who has 3 of the main 4 belts, plus the IBO, plus Joshua is the cash cow, plus Joshua is traveling to America, a place where Luis Ortiz is very familiar with. Luis Ortiz doesn't have to get used to time zones, Joshua does. If anything, the home crowd in Madison Square Garden will probably be very, very anti-Joshua, you would imagine, but of course there will be a lot of Brits going over there. But it's far easier for Luis Ortiz to get into camp like right now. If he's not already, get into camp right now and prepare for Joshua. Joshua is an orthodox fighter. Joshua's been training for orthodox fighters. Luis Ortiz is southpaw, so he's whatever kind of sparring and everything that he's been doing, he's going to have to flip it for southpaw. He doesn't have long to go. There's only 5 weeks left to go. Now, Luis Ortiz, he only had 5 weeks when he was preparing for Deontay Wilder, which is no great surprise really, because Wilder always leaves things to the last minute, even though he's been in camp for quite some time and then secures the fight that he knew that he was going to be getting like last minute. So the guy that he's going to be fighting didn't have great preparation. Tyson Fury had like a good preparation, but ordinarily that doesn't happen. Luis Ortiz was one of those victims, shall we say, and he only had 5 weeks training in himself. So what's the difference? So why is it that Luis Ortiz, who was undefeated when he took on Deontay Wilder, was happy to take $500,000, so 500 grand, but yet same amount of training, but for more belts against Anthony Joshua, suddenly he's after, what, 10 million plus or potentially whatever it may be. It doesn't make any kind of sense. But listen, it's a business. If you don't ask, you don't get. If you just accept the first offer that comes through, you're an idiot, no matter who you are. Now, Andy Ruiz Jr. and Michael Hunter, yes, of course, these guys will get great paydays. But to be honest with you, I don't think anybody really wants to see the Michael Hunter fight. To be perfectly honest, I don't think people want to see it right now. I think people need to see Michael Hunter in the heavyweight division a bit more. Bearing in mind, he's an undercard fighter, okay? He's not a headliner, not even close to it. Andy Ruiz has already been in a world title fight. Yes, he's got 1 loss in his record, but he didn't get knocked out. Luis Ortiz got knocked out. And when Andy Ruiz Jr. lost that fight, he went to New Zealand as well. So he actually travelled to New Zealand, take on Joseph Parker for the vacant WBO title. And a lot of people believe that he won that fight and Joseph Parker got home cooking. Whether you believe that fight was a draw, a Ruiz win, or a Parker win, I'm cool with it. Because it was very, very close. So there's a whole world of difference between the two losses. And Andy Ruiz Jr., he will come to fight. He will come to swing for the fences if necessary. Joshua's going to be the favourite. Let's not hide behind it. Joshua will be the favourite no matter who he fights. You put Wilder in there with him. You put Tyson Fury in there with him. Joshua, on paper, will be the favourite no matter what. And Big Baby Jarrell Miller failing the test for three banned substances is not Joshua's fault, is it? So whoever it is that he gets, we're going to have to accept it. Even if that means a Trevor Bryan. To be honest, that's probably the one that I don't want. But it's going to be interesting to see Don King up there waving his little UK and American flag, how he does. But anyway, we'll have to wait and see what happens with all this. But either way, the door is still open. There's still a very, very small window of opportunity. If Luis Ortiz really wants this fight, even though he said that I'm not going to price myself out, I will accept pretty much any offer that you give me, I'll take the fight. Cool. So whatever the offer is, take the fight then. 5 weeks notice. Exactly the same as what you had with Wilder. Even though you did actually have 7 weeks, or 6.5 weeks when Miller pulled out, or got pulled out, I should say. So had you accepted it back then, you've actually had a longer training camp for Joshua than what you would have Wilder. But it seems that Luis Ortiz, I don't know this for a fact, I'm purely speculating, but it seems that Al Haymon and the PBC don't want any of their guys to be fighting on a DAZN show, because obviously it's a rivalry, even though that all PBC fighters are free agents, allegedly. But yeah, he does have some kind of stranglehold over them. Maybe it's Luis Ortiz's management team don't want him in there with Joshua. They don't feel confident. But this is the last opportunity for Luis Ortiz to take on Anthony Joshua. If you don't take this, Joshua has no more voluntaries for at least the next 18 months. As Joshua is only fighting 2 times a year now. His next fight after this one will be for the WBO mandatory. That will be Alexander Usyk. If, of course, he comes through against Carlos Takam. Then it will be Kubrat Pulev will be pulled on him, and then the WBA mandatory. So Joshua's going to have no voluntaries, at least in the next 18 months. Well, technically, you could say 2 years, because obviously it's 18 months from the Usyk fight. The only way he can get out of any of those kind of mandatories is if he fights for another title, which is currently what Deontay Wilder has. So unless Luis Ortiz, you're going to get that belt off Wilder between now and then, you ain't going to get that Joshua fight. This is your one and only opportunity to make big money, become a world champion. Because as we've seen before, even though you were rocking Wilder all over the place, you were pinging him all over that ring, the referee and the medical team, the PBC, weren't on your side. Very, very clear. So bear that in mind when you make this final decision as to whether or not you want to accept this fight with Joshua or not. Either way, for me, I'm happy with Andrew Ruiz Jr. That would be the one that I would want. If not, it'll just be whatever. Okay, fact is, it ain't Joshua's fault. So drop your thoughts below about it, click thumbs up, and of course subscribe. Catch you all on the next video.